Hey guys, it's Amy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day as always. So, yesterday I posted a video discussing some issues that I had with the Todd Mullis case. But today I wanted to let you guys take a look at what his hearing attorney had discussed because he explains the issue with the timing and how impossible it is, along with some other things, very well. You're also going to hear Todd Mullis give a statement regarding his charge and stating that he did not do this. His lawyer also says he did not do this. But the main thing is that the attorney explains the timing and the impossibility of Todd Mullis doing this, especially in the manner that the state has said. Now, this is just clips from the sentencing hearing. This is not the entire hearing. I will probably post that at some point soon, but for now, I just wanted you guys to check this out, and afterwards, let me know what you think. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
Obviously, Your Honor knows that the defendant was convicted of murder in the first degree.
You want to talk about a miscarriage of justice? This is it. This case is it. I mean, Mr. Mullis didn't do this. So it is to sentence Mr. Mullis would be a miscarriage of justice. The only way that we can right this wrong is to grant Mr. Mullis a new trial. Last, I want to talk about the totality of the evidence that came in, viewed in the light most favorable to the government, which is how the court has to look at this. Was there enough to convict Mr. Mullis? And what we have to look at is what happened on November 10, 2018. Well, we know that on that day, Todd Mullis, his original plan was to go and do what's called chisel farming. He was going to go to a different property that they either rented or owned, and he was going to do some work on the ground to get it ready for the spring crops. The ground was too frozen, as it turns out. That particular day was too cold. Mr. Mullis then goes back to his house where he and Amy and Tristan, his 14-year-old son, have breakfast. After that, Mr. Mullis and his son Tristan decided that since he couldn't do the chisel plowing, that they would go hang heaters in the hog barn that's located on their property. Amy decides that she wants to come out and potentially help and do whatever, so she goes out as well. Amy, had a procedure a day or two before and wasn't feeling all that great. So nonetheless, she goes out. They're there, and how this barn is set up is that it is a barn that runs east and west, and there are 3 entrances into this barn. There's the main entrance on the west end of the barn, which you walk into what I call like an open office setting. It has some tools hanging there. It has what else becomes very big in this case. It has a water spigot and a garden hose in that little area. There's a window in that area that looks out down to the east so you can see into the hog barn itself. Just a few feet away is a doorway where you would enter or walk through to get in to the barn part itself. The only other entrance on the west end of the building, you would have to walk up a ramp, and it's like that because that's where semis would back up to that door that's elevated off of the ground for hogs to travel in and out of the barn. The last entrance or exit is clear on the southeast corner of the barn. This barn is about 100 yards in length for where the cattle can be. Tristan and his father were working on the west end. They were starting on the west end, going to work their way towards the east, hanging these lamps so that when they got the small hogs in, they would be warm during the winter months. Now, Amy decides that she's going to go back into the house, and somehow it comes up, I think maybe Todd asked her if she could grab the cat carrier out of the red barn, which would be located to the west and to the south of the hog barn. So Amy leaves, and they don't see her. They continue to work, and it's at least 15 minutes, if not a little bit longer, before Tristan says he's thirsty and he's going to go around the corner and get a drink of water. So he leaves to go around the corner and get a drink of water. Now, as he's standing there getting his drink, he doesn't see Todd Mullis walk by him and go out the west side door. He doesn't see Todd Mullis go up the ramp, open the hog door, and jump down to the ground. All right? The only other way this could have happened, and it's impossible that it did happen, would be that Todd Mullis would have to sprint 90 yards to the east, over to the east door. Todd Mullis would then have to exit. And bear in mind that this is 15, 20, maybe longer minutes later. Todd Mullis doesn't know where Amy is located at. So whether she's in the red shed, whether she's in the house, he doesn't have any idea. So then that means that Todd would have to sprint 100 yards back to the front or the west side of the barn, and then the red barn is located approximately 30 yards away. So they'd have to sprint 30 yards over to the red barn. He then would have to commit this criminal act that he's been accused of by finding a pitchfork or corn rake and then put it down, then sprint 130 yards back to the east to that door, sprint another 90 yards once he gets inside back to the west, start working on the heat lamps, not be out of breath, be perfectly normal, all while Tristan left to go get a drink of water and come back in. It would be physically impossible for him to do that. That's the only time that I believe that he was out of, except for maybe one other drink, which was short, that they were out of each other's eyesight as they're working in the barn. It wasn't until Tristan leaves to go find Mom that he finds Mom, yells, or speaks loudly, whatever the case may be. Todd hears, and then Todd goes over and then for that reason, and for all of the other reasons that I've talked about today, the only way to make this right for Mr. Mullis is to grant a new trial. And our reasoning and facts for the motion and arrest of judgment are the same, so I'm not going to reiterate everything for the motion and arrest of judgment. So in the end, Judge, we are asking that this court grant a new trial, allow us to proceed to trial, and present our evidence.
Jurors properly instructed on the law after a lengthy trial who unanimously agreed to a finding of guilt. Ms. Hughes recited the law as it pertains to the burden today and what I have to consider, and I think she properly recited the law. I would say I think that I'm actually required, or at least that I should, independently weigh the evidence and consider credibility as it pertains to a motion for new trial. If the verdict is contrary to the weight of the evidence, the defendant is entitled to a new trial. I cannot say that the evidence in this case, or that the verdict is contrary to the weight of the evidence. As to the defendant's motion for new trial and motion in arrest of judgment, I will deny those motions in their entirety. We will go ahead and proceed with sentencing at this time. We have not had, I don't believe, a pre-sentence investigation. Typically, we don't have one for a Class A felony. And I will take argument from counsel to start. Mr. Mullis, you have the right to speak today if you'd like to. You're not required to. Your attorney has spoken on your behalf. This is the only chance you'll get to speak today before I pronounce judgment. Is there anything you would like to say today?
I did not do this. This is supposed to be America where you have a fair chance of proving your innocence. But you shouldn't have to prove your innocence. Instead of the other way around. I thought it was guilty until, or innocent until proven guilty. I feel this is the other way around. And I was a faithful and loving husband, and I never did this.
Is there anything else the state knows of that we need to cover here today?
I'm sorry, Judge. Nothing further, Your Honor, sorry.
Mr. Hamrock, anything else that you need to cover on the record today?
No, Judge.
Okay, we'll stand adjourned and close the record. Thank you, everyone. I will say with respect to that issue and perhaps touching on some other issues, today is not a day when I can take evidence and testimony and when I'm going to make factual determinations about certain things.
You want to talk about a miscarriage of justice? This is it. This case is it. I mean, Mr. Mullis didn't do this. So it is to sentence Mr. Mullis would be a miscarriage of justice.